There we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Lan Tan, and I'm one of the Rainforest Steering Committee members here from Edmonton. And I'm just wondering if we have some of my friends on the screen today. I'm just going to go through the list. So I just want to say hi to all of them. So we are a group of volunteers up in Edmonton, and we all love the rainforest movement. Okay, so I don't see any of my members or team members there, but that's all good. So welcome everyone, and then here some quick etiquettes. If you have any questions, just raise your hands or write comment in the chat group. We also politely ask everyone to stay muted while the team of folks will be talking a bit later, and that is just to not cut them in the middle of their conversation. And just to let you know, this session is being recorded, and the chat and the resources will be captured and posted in the lunch notes in the Slack channel. So what is rainforest, and why do we use this analogy? So rainforest, we are like farms, right? Farms are made so that everything is systematic and there's predictable outcomes. And it's risk averse, and it minimizes, everything's about minimizing the risk. So for the rainforest, on the other hand, it's wild, it's an untamed space where new ideas can sprout, and it is so that everything can grow and thrive in the environment that they are in. So I'm going to read this verbatim on the vision and mission because this is so important. So the rainforest is a world-class community of dreamers and doers, connected by a common goal of making Alberta fertile ground for building, developing, and growing innovative ideas into sustainable ventures. And our mission is to connect the innovation ecosystem by strengthening the movement behind Alberta tech industry around a framework of shared values of collaboration, community, and trust through storytelling. And this has been quite evident in the past few years since Rainforest got adopted and was brought to Alberta by Brett Zumwalt and Jim Gibson. So this has been incredible. And we have social contract, which I think most of you have signed. And these are the values that we like to follow as we interact with each other. My favorite one is pay it forward, just give. Without expecting anything in return, because we know that when you give, you always get in the end. So it's like a full cycle. So I love that. And here you can see the 6 pillars of what what rainforests will we measure that once a year. And as you can see, culture is so important. Building a culture of trust. That's where we know that by having trust amongst ourselves, that things will get done much quicker. And I have personally experienced that in all the things that I've done, with partners and with entrepreneurs. So and this is where you all come together. You're building that culture. So with that, that's the end of my show here, and I'll pass it on back to Bridget. Over to you.
Thanks, Len. Thank you. That was great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Bridget Legault. I am a community manager with Rainforest in Calgary, and Amber Rowden is our community storyteller, and she is here and has done most of the heavy lifting for today's organization and panel. So I'll hand it over to her in a moment. But before doing that, I'll just say, if this is your first Lunch Without Lunch, please use the reaction button, raise your hand, show us who you are, throw your LinkedIn in the chat, and do know that this is meant to be an engaged hour. So please actively connect with people using direct message or what have you in the chat. But before we get started today, I just wanted to quickly chat about the events that came out of Kamloops last week that have really struck a chord with me and the country, obviously, and more so because as I reflect on our community and being values-based, we need to do our part in reconciliation. And so something that we have talked about since I started as community manager was doing a land acknowledgement at Lunch Without Lunch. And we understand that we already do the intro that Lan has just done because of its importance in reiterating what this community is all about. But it is also important that we do our part in reconciliation. And so we will take just a very, very short amount of time to do that each week. And I would invite any community members who would like to take part in that in any future weeks, to just reach out to Amber or I, and we can try to arrange that. Amber and I were invited to join Platform Calgary staff, which was very kind of them, in some land acknowledgement training from the Calgary Foundation. And they talked a lot about personalizing land acknowledgements and doing our research to know, the history of our country and the living trauma that exists today. And while I don't have a perfect land acknowledgement today, it is fairly, one of those kind of I don't want to say canned, but ones you hear around the city and elsewhere. It's something I'll be working on, and hopefully we can all work on it together. So recognizing that we're not all from Calgary, we're not all sitting in Calgary, we're in Edmonton, across the province, across the country, but because Rainforest Alberta is based in Calgary and Edmonton, we will recognize those lands, and I urge you all to acknowledge wherever you're at as well, but also the people from both Treaty 6 and Treaty 7. And so for the Treaty 7 region here in Calgary, this includes the people of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Nakota Nations, and the Métis Nation Region 3. And in Edmonton, we acknowledge the traditional lands and the people of the Treaty 6 territory, the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota, Sioux, as well as the Métis. Another interesting tidbit we learned is that Alberta is the only province in Canada with a recognized Métis land base entrenched in provincial statute. The other provinces do not. So anyway, that's something I'm going to explore more, because I do have some Métis blood way back when. And I look forward to learning more about reconciliation with all of you. So on a completely other note, we'll shift gears here. Amber has an awesome panel from the League of Innovators program across Canada, but these are some Alberta entrepreneurs joining us today. So I'll hand it over to Amber.
Thank you so much, Bridget. So as Bridget mentioned, we are joined by Annika Louie from League of Innovators and a panel of alumni from the League of Innovators Lab 12-week virtual accelerator program for youth-led startups. So we are joined by Shay of Bluejarvis Technologies, Inc., Kevin from Elev Homes, and the team from FentaGone as they share their entrepreneurial journeys. So Annika Louie, they lives on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam people, rainy and lush green Vancouver. When you don't see her meticulously planning her next adventure, she's been to 43 countries and counting, sipping a dirty chai in a coffee shop, or wandering art galleries, you will find her somewhere in the startup community. She spends her week serving as the Acceleration Programs Director at the League of Innovators, empowering the next generation of Canada's entrepreneurs, changemakers, and innovators by shortening their path to success. Most recently, they are working towards becoming a certified life coach from Rhodes Wellness College while preparing to self-publish their first poetry book. So I'm very excited to have all of them here today to share their journeys. And with that being said, I will pass it on to Annika.
Thanks so much for the warm welcome. I have a little baby presentation for you to tell you more about the League of Innovators and the Labs program, to set the stage before you hear from some of our awesome Alberta-based Labs alumni. So here we go. Cool. I think it's still loading. Super. Those are our social media handles down on the bottom. LY Unplugged is our Twitter, and League of Innovators is us all over social media, and most recently now TikTok. These are some pictures of our awesome Labs alumni. Quickly, our mission at the League of Innovators, at the core of it, is to really democratize access to youth entrepreneurship for youth all across Canada. And for us, that looks like a handful of different ways, from empowering youth-led startups like the folks joining us today, helping develop entrepreneurial acumen across regions for the future of work, championing and advocating for these young entrepreneurs across the country. As we know, the future of work requires an entrepreneurial skill set. I'm sure with the folks in the room here, like the benefit of tech and entrepreneurship is not lost on you, but youth are built for innovation. And we see that more and more young people are considering entrepreneurial careers as a viable path for them, which is super exciting. And that these experiences, like the one through Labs, is worthwhile. So at the League of Innovators, what makes us cool and different is that we're a no cliffs organization. So what that means for us is that we work with young people as early as like 13 years old to their 30s at every stage of their entrepreneurial journey. And we have a whole suite of different programs that are all virtual first, free, no equity, no strings attached, sector agnostic. Programs, from working with educators and youth on learning about entrepreneurship and figuring out what they're passionate about, and empowering teachers across the country to bring entrepreneurship into classrooms, to running workshops and our Summer of Impact in July and August. That's 8 weeks of free entrepreneurship summer camp and an innovation challenge. Last year, we had 400 high school students on Zoom getting excited about entrepreneurship, which was hectic and crazy. And then on our acceleration side, we have 3 different programs. Foundations, which goes from idea to action in 6 weeks, starting up again in October. We have our labs program, which I'll tell you more about. And then we have our Boost residency for scale-ups. That's a 1-year program for youth-led scale-ups. And for us, youth means folks who are 30 years old and younger, and scale-ups look like $500,000 in annual recurring revenue and above. So essentially, Lab seeks to answer the question of how can we build your entrepreneurial skills, mindset, and grow your startups with a social purpose while really shortening your path to success through all of mentorship, resources, workshops, etc. Like Amber said, it's a 12-week virtual accelerator program. The startups that are part of the program get access to live workshops, Ask Me Anything sessions with serial entrepreneurs and investors, like the co-founder of Starbucks or Kickstarter, or Ryan Holmes, who's the chair of our board and founder of Hootsuite. They get access to a whole whack of different resources, discounts, perks, coaching, mentorship. But broadly, at the core of everything that we do is really this powerful network of hundreds of young entrepreneurs. I think right now we have over 450 young entrepreneurs we work with across the country, and access to this diverse toolkit. Right now, we're recruiting for what's hopefully going to be our largest cohort yet in September. Applications are open until July 5th for what is going to be our 7th cohort. Really exciting. We also, being youth focused, love memes. This is a meme that essentially is meant to say that as you continue to grow your startup, you become wiser. As I'm sure the folks here today will highlight in their entrepreneurial journey. This slide shows you some of the youth in action, some headlines from the last year, from doing $400 million exits to being featured as Social Entrepreneurs of the Year, or stepping up in COVID to solve some really amazing problems, to be named one of Fast Company's world-changing ideas, and more. This is my contact information, which I'll also drop in the Slack chat with my email and my LinkedIn. Super happy to have any conversations about partnerships or folks who could be a good fit, or if you're just curious to learn more. But that is my short spiel, and I will pass it over to Shay to tell us more about her story, building Bluejarvis technologies, and her entrepreneurial journey.
Awesome. Thank you, Annika. And I really appreciate the meme. And I think someone in the chat said that it was day 47. I think it's like within the 2 weeks, you're like, oh my God, so much stuff. So I have a quick 1 slide to share. So I'm just going to pull that up right here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So as I was trying to think about what to talk about, I think what I realized is with Bluejarvis. So hi, I'm co-founder and CEO of Bluejarvis Technologies, and Bluejarvis is focused on creating digital solutions that involve natural language processing, AI, and text analytics to solve sort of the knowledge loss problem that we see in different industries. And our journey started off within the oil and gas sector. And I wanted to talk a bit more about how my personal story kind of impacted the different industries we ended up in. And I kind of made this really cool chart. So I studied petroleum engineering, and being an engineer, I just love charts, and I love sort of going through charts to explain just processes. And I think the process of my personal story kind of was embedded within our business journey at Bluejarvis. So it all started off at the University of Alberta, and I spent 4 years from 2013 to 2018 doing my petroleum engineering graduate degree. And I think it was the last year, so 2017, that I first heard of a competition at the U of A. It was to do with creating solutions for sustainable development goals. And through that competition, I think I got my first taste of what it feels like to build a business, to think about users, to create a solution. And we competed and we came second place. And starting right off the bat, that's an interest I developed. I did not get that opportunity until the very, the final years of my studying at the U of A. So from there, within, I think, 2 months, because I think all good things happen together, I attended an event at the U of A. It was an industry event, and I was put in touch with one of my lecturers who essentially during the event said to all of us attending, so the event was a couple of industry folks as well as students that were just looking for jobs, like if you remember events there. And he put out this idea that, if none of you could find any work, it would be really cool for you to start a division off of an engineering company and try and, get some experience through that. And that really struck because it provided an option. And back then in 2017, the job prospects for anyone graduating weren't the best. So it was me and 6 other founders within that event, 6 other people within that event that soon became my founders. And we started a division called Nexov. So that was that was my first actual business, even though it wasn't technically a fully fledged business, but it was a division of an engineering company. And we thought this would be, a great way to test the waters to see what we're capable of. And we started off by providing sort of a suite of services related to our degree. And we reached out to a lot of people within the industry to see if they were willing to take us up on that. So that event or that dinner that I attended, I think as you can see on the graph, that's like my key event number 1. So that kind of led me to the path of understanding, okay, cool, I have people that are like-minded that I found during the event, and they want to partner up with me and start something new. The other thing that was happening, because I was still a student, is I had the opportunity to go work as an engineer at one of the biggest oil and gas firms in Calgary. And that was Husky. I think it's Innovators right now, but it was Husky before. And back there, I spent 4 months. I enjoyed the work. It was really good pay. It feels really nice to make money. And that's something I think, when you have your own startup, it takes a while to get there. But when I was working as a summer student at Husky, and I also had started off Nexov, it was sort of a standstill, and I had to decide, okay, what steps should I take next? Should I continue on and get more experience, or should I start off and continue on with this division I created? And as you can see on the chart, I never went back to Husky. I ended up, going through Nexov, and this was year 2017. So in the fall, me and the 6 other founders I talked about, we started the consulting group, we reached out to people, and we were just in it, building the business. And I kid you not, within the first 5 months, we lost 4 founders. So there were only 3 people left. So like within the 4 months, like people, I guess like the gravity of the situation and sort of the complexity of building a suite of services just right off the university was really hard. And it's obviously going to be hard. And so a couple of people took a step back and said, okay, this is not for me. So by the time it was 2018, I think, there were about 3 other founders left on the Nexov team. And we kind of went into a path where we started looking at geothermal technologies. Given our petroleum engineering background, we realized, you know what, there's opportunity here where there are abandoned well sites. Can we take those well sites and do some good with them? So that's kind of the thinking behind geothermal, and that's kind of where me and my team left, and we started trying to build a solution there. And we spent about a year. And currently, one of my founders or co-founders is still within that area. But me and the second founder, we kind of found another passion, and that's kind of key event number 2, is we saw that there was large amounts of communication data within the oil and gas industry. So just dialing back a little bit, so within oil and gas, a lot of the information and knowledge is very informal. So people just pick up the phone, or they have notes everywhere, or they like to text on WhatsApp, and that's kind of how they communicate and share their knowledge on different projects and processes and so on. And we saw that and we're like, okay, is there a way to take that information, codify it, summarize it, and make it available to everyone in the organization so everyone has access to that knowledge? And that key event led to sort of the birth of Bluejarvis. So this was in the span of a year and a half. And as you can see in the graph, there's a lot of decisions, there's a lot of pivots, there's a lot of stepping back and thinking, okay, what's my next step? And I haven't really gone into details of what happened from 2019 to 2021, but it looks like this times 10 because of COVID and all of the different changes with remote work and so on. There's a lot more decisions we had to make. And I know I have logos here. So after Bluejarvis was born, in 2019, we applied to LWOL Labs to just sort of, that was our first accelerator, and it was pretty awesome. I think LOI is really, really great in helping youth understand, I guess, what's possible, when you're surrounded with like-minded people, especially going back, so in oil and gas, there's like a lot of, I would say, people that are very, very experienced and they have years of knowledge. And when you enter an industry like that, it can be intimidating. But with LOI Labs, going in there, seeing like-minded folks just starting their businesses in different industries, it kind of made me and my team feel a lot more confident. Like, yeah, okay, you know what, we're capable, we can do this. We just need a plan, right? And we need structure. And that helped provide a little bit of that. And I think with LOI, the labs ends with this huge pitch night. And we pitched to like a whole, like an event that had over hundreds of people, and we were pitching, and it was just a great experience in trying to find our confidence and telling ourselves, yeah, we're capable of this. So LOI was pretty great there. And I guess, like, I think the biggest thing about my entire journey is that change is inevitable. And there's always going to be different pivots and different points where you need to decide what you need to do. And you just have to embrace it. So that's, yeah, I guess that's kind of what I wanted to share. And I'm happy to talk about where we are now later on in the breakout rooms. And Amber, go ahead. And I think we talk to the next group. Thank you.
Thank you, Shay.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Shay at all? If you do, put them in the chat or feel free to unmute and ask them. If not, we'll go to our next speaker. So we're going to jump over to Kevin. Oh, Peter.
Hi, great presentation. And you know what? Being an entrepreneur is so much fun and hardest thing in the world, but you know what? It's what gets me out of bed in the morning too. So I was just going to ask you, do you look at using low code, no code sort of platforms to extend the talent within your organization? Or you, when it comes to coding and that sort of stuff, do you actually hand roll everything?
No, it's so the currently the tech stack that we have is a language called Flutter, like the platform, and a lot of the work there it's pretty much no code. Like a lot of the UI design, I do it myself and I don't program at all, but it's easy to do that setup. And that's kind of the route that we've taken, because being a very small team, you need to be nimble and we don't have endless dollars. So yeah, no, for sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Kevin from Elev Homes to take us on our next story.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can see my screen. My name is Kevin. I'm the CEO of Elev, a platform that makes living off campus stress-free and affordable. Back in 2018, I got into the U of A for the nursing program, and I really wanted to live on campus in residence. But that specific spring, the university announced a price hike on all residences and all meal plans and made the meal plans mandatory. So that effectively priced me out of living on residence, so I had to live off campus. So my roommates and I, who are pictured in this photo, set out to find a place off campus, and we had struggled to find one that was affordable, accessible, and of quality. We literally spent the entire summer looking for a house, and although we look happy in this picture, this house was actually way overpriced and actually had a mice infestation, which was not fun to deal with throughout the school year. Fast forward to end of 2019, my entrepreneurial spirit starts kicking in, and I really wanted to start a startup. And one day I'm walking home from school and I see a house getting renovated, and then it hit me. Well, we should start a company or a startup that's going to buy and renovate old homes and then rent them out to students. On top of that, we're going to have an app that streamlines the entire process from the point where the students start looking for a house until the day that they move out, and we would call it Elev. And of course, the idea evolved. We dropped the core part of buying and renovating homes, and we stuck with just the marketplace idea. But what was certain was that Elev was going to be something new, and it was going to be something different. Now, my co-founder and I, we went through an intense learning curve, which honestly, we're still going through today. And our first time pitching was at the Enactus Ultimate Pitch Competition, which going into it, we were so sure we would win, but we didn't even make the finals. And that's us in the pictures getting absolutely grilled by the judges. And a year later, we actually won the same competition. This was in January of 2021. Now, over the course of the last 1.5 years, we received tons of help in many different ways. We did Y Combinator Startup School, which was really our introduction to entrepreneurship. We got into Startup Edmonton's Student Founder Program, which gave us 10K starter grants that proved to be the ultimate motivation boost. And we did another accelerator in Calgary. And lastly, the League of Innovators Lab program, which has honestly been my personal favorite because of the quality of the education, the quality of the resources and the guest speakers, and how well organized and structured the program is. It seemed to just fit within our busy schedules as entrepreneurs. On top of that, the community and the relationships that we made from it, I'm sure will last a lifetime. Of course, there's no startup that does not go through big challenges. My co-founder, which you've seen in the previous pictures, actually left her team, and we've had since probably over 10 people join in and out and leave over time. And this is our latest team picture, which was taken in August of last year. And only 4 of the people in this photo are still part of the team. We've pivoted back and forth and countless of times. And today we still continue to make changes on our product and our strategies all the time. Now, after working on Elev for over a year, frankly, we finally launched our MVP on the app stores in February. And we've continued to launch and relaunch and launch again and relaunch all over again until we will actually launch this summer, which we haven't set a date for that yet because I'm sure we'll probably launch again. And we've been able to raise a 50K pre-seed round and get approved for many different grants, which combined has allowed us to grow our team to a total of 10 people for at least this summer. And we've partnered with the 3 biggest student unions in Edmonton, at the U of A, at McEwen, and at NAIT. And we continue to grow our social media presence and continue to iterate our strategies on a weekly basis. And of course, by no means, I wouldn't call ourselves established. And frankly, I wouldn't even say that we have found product market fit yet, but we continue to learn and we continue to work towards our goal, which is to help every student find their home away from home. Thank you very much. That was a pretty brief presentation, but I'm leaving some time for questions if there are any.
Thank you so much, Kevin. That was an awesome presentation. Does anyone have any questions for Kevin?
I was just going to quickly say that when I was at the U of A, I wish this was built back then, because I have gone through so many, I've moved like 5 to 6 times. So I wish this was something we would have found there, but yeah, great job.
Thank you very much.
There is a question from Scott. He said, what kind of help do you need?
So honestly, most of our challenges had been around acquisition on the host side. On the student side, we haven't had too much trouble, but it's just on the host side, fine tuning that sales pipeline, I guess, for the landlords and the property managers has been a challenge. So if you have any expertise or anybody that you know that could help us on the sales side for landlords and whatnot, or marketing strategies even, that's the kind of help that we would love to get.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, for asking.
Well, keep your questions coming in the chat, and thank you so much, Kevin. Now I'm very excited to introduce Adarsh and Simran from FentaGone, and I will let them share their story.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can all see my screen, and I hope you're all doing well and staying safe at this time. My name is Simran Dhillon, and I'm honored to be speaking with all of you on our entrepreneurship journey. So I'm the CEO of FentaGone, a novel innovation that works to prevent street-level overdoses through the creation of a discrete and portable fentanyl detection system. So when we started this idea just around 1.5 years ago as 3 science students at the University of Alberta, all we had was an immense passion to protect those suffering at the hands of addiction and catalyze change within the harm reduction sphere, a sphere that has been neglected for years and has deeply affected me personally. So to begin understanding the initial stages of our entrepreneurial journey, it's pertinent to gauge a greater understanding of the opioid epidemic itself and how this allowed us to catalyze innovation in this space, as well as my own personal story with the opioid epidemic. So 17,602 apparent opioid toxicity deaths between January 2016 and June 2020. One preventable life lost is too many. Nearly 18,000 is seemingly unacceptable. These losses not only take these lives, they take away families and destroy individuals across the nation. And addiction is not only something that I've witnessed on a regional scope in Alberta or even nationally in Canada. It's something that I care deeply about as I've witnessed the pain inflicted by losing someone to addiction, a loved one who passed unfortunately a few years ago, but also the grief catalyzed by witnessing your family members fall victim to substance abuse, mourning and confused on how to support them and keep them protected. You feel helpless. Imagine witnessing your parents, your children, your friends suffering and not having access to the resources to help them and being turned away by channels established to support those in need. As a person who has witnessed addiction and the detriment it can cost families, we look for greater support from the government and from larger institutions. Instead, what we've witnessed is a large deficit for support within these vulnerable demographics, where not enough is being done to prioritize equitable access to life-saving health information to those suffering at the hands of addiction. So this crisis deeply affected me and my family, and the lack of intervention by greater bodies inspired myself and my 2 co-founders, AJ and Adarsh, to have taken it upon ourselves to catalyze innovation through grassroots level initiatives and the creation of our novel fentanyl detection system, FentaGone, within the harm reduction sector, to spark dialogue and to change the narrative on harm reduction and addiction within our own community. So although we've seen an exponential increase in overdoses within the past few years, as I'm sure many of you are aware of, with 2021 to be projected as the deadliest year ever, what we have seen is a lack of investment in supporting those with addiction, with safe consumption sites being shut down across the nation, even provincially, harm reduction services being stripped of funding, and thousands of those suffering continuing to suffer without the support of our institutions. So with our innovation, we hope to provide individuals with a tool that could empower them to make a life-saving decision and to prevent overdose in their most isolated and vulnerable moments. We hope to spearhead research and innovation within the harm reduction sector and put Canada at the forefront of leading this change internationally. Through starting this idea over a year ago, we validated the need for this innovation by securing an initial $10,000 worth of funding by winning the World's Challenge with our idea at the University of Alberta. This then kickstarted our journey as entrepreneurs as we received a lot of support within our community. We partnered with 2 renowned research labs at the University of Alberta, including the LWOL Lab, which specializes in biochemistry, and the Taylor Lab, specializing in opioid research, to conduct research trials on our syringe. We also further created an initial prototype, and we partnered with mechanical engineers at ACAMP, shout out to Neil, who's on the call, to optimize syringe mechanics Furthermore, we recently won the 2021 Telus Innovation Challenge, where we received $120,000 worth of funding and the ongoing mentorship and support of influential leaders in the innovation space that has allowed us to partner with the National Research Council, Alberta Innovates, and Telus. We've also been working to establish partnerships throughout the nation with harm reduction services, including safe consumption sites and needle distribution services. I could go on forever about the importance of harm reduction, but it brings me to my greatest piece of advice, I guess the greatest challenge that has been for my team, and I'm sure for many other entrepreneurs, as entrepreneurship is not always an easy gig because there will always be people that don't believe in you, your idea, or even your cause. And the one thing that has kept us going is largely our passion to catalyze change and our personal stories that have attributed us to the opioid epidemic. So just to provide you with an example of how we've faced some of that is with our innovation, we've had the opportunity to create a conversation about addiction and harm reduction. And we've received a lot of media attention as a result, ranging from an article in Global Mail and CBC. And I wanted to take an opportunity to bring some attention that sometimes entrepreneurs can get within this field. One individual wrote, "I question what value this offers society in general. Won't addicts breed more damaged and genetically defective offspring for which society will have to care for?" Another person wrote, "Why would you save someone who plays Russian roulette with their life?" Those just capture an excerpt of the many messages we received, ignorant and blatantly diminishing the lives of so many due to preconceived and uninformed information. This personally was really difficult for me to read, coming from a place where I know people, I've lost loved ones to addiction. So it's something that we had to face and had to overcome. Although we have a long way to go to see our product come into fruition, we'll be working with Telus to set up clinical trials for early 2022. We'll work under the support of Alberta Health Services to set up a provincial pilot project and working with the National Research Council to protect our intellectual property. But I really appreciate all the support and encouragement we've received throughout our journey, especially from LOI. Shout out to Annika, and everyone here today for all of your ongoing support. It's truly meant the world to us, and we look forward to everything the world has to offer us and our product, FentaGone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was an incredible presentation and really inspiring. And I want to open the floor if there's any questions. If there's any in the chat or anyone wants to unmute.
Hi, very good presentation and very meaningful. So thank you for that. What is your organization doing on the prevention side of addictions and kind of the whole brain therapy and how not to get there side of the equation, or is that just too far breaching?
Yeah, so right now what we're focusing on is protecting people that do suffer from addiction, creating that technology that doesn't exist. So right now we're addressing the issue that there is no street level testing available for users to use to protect themselves once they are taking substances, because we do know that substance abuse does exist. However, we are working to create greater advocacy on this issue. I'm not sure if everyone here is from Alberta, but there is a lot going on in the harm reduction sphere at the moment. So utilizing our platform and some of the media attention that we've received to garner more drug policy change within the government is largely our work towards prevention, but also supporting those that do suffer with addiction at the moment.
Thank you.
I think Dawn has a question.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I was wondering, Simran, what was one of the most either challenging or surprising obstacles that you had to overcome in this process?
Yeah, there's definitely been a few, and Adarsh, you can pipe on afterwards as well, because I'm sure there's been different ones. COVID was a huge one. We kind of were a startup during COVID. So having lab spaces shut down during a time where we needed to run a bunch of research trials has been super difficult. But also, I guess, kind of going back into what we said, that not everyone believes in the cause. And that's something that we didn't necessarily take into consideration just because it's something so meaningful to us. And when we started to go out there, we received a lot of community support, a lot of encouragement, but we also received a lot of people that didn't understand the importance of harm reduction. And in a time where we are getting a lot of safe consumption sites being shut down, it's not something that's unheard of, and it's something that we've seen a lot of recently.
Yeah, I completely agree with those two things. COVID has put us back maybe 6 months just on its own. And waiting for chemicals and waiting for companies to repurpose so we can figure out manufacturing. But yeah, when Simran says that there's not supporters, I mean, with our model, essentially, we're pretty tied to public funding, and that comes with the government, and that comes with, you know, politicians having their own beliefs on what's important and what's not. And so we have been finding it hard in Alberta to actually get a lot of traction with the government and getting support from them. So if anyone has ideas about how to navigate public spaces like that, we'd love to hear it.
I just have a quick comment. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Having worked in the not-for-profit sector for such a long time and having seen so many clients die from addictions, and even having to be trained on how to use an naloxone kit and how to revive somebody, you're skipping that step, right? We can't sometimes do anything about the addiction. We can provide support, we can provide information, but once a person is already addicted, it's very tough. And a solution like the ones that you have found is something that is definitely going to change and save lives, change people, and save many lives. And so I thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christina. Like, genuinely, any words of encouragement have been greatly appreciated, especially it is a very dark space to be in. And when we are going into the harm reduction spaces, safe consumption and whatnot, it can be a difficult conversation to have. So really appreciate people that largely care about the cause.
I think Brent had a question.
Thanks, Amber. First, thank you very much for everybody that's done the presentations, for sure. For the last presentation, strong vested interest in your success. I sit on the board of directors for a community social organization here in Calgary, and we provide housing and food for over 100 individuals. So unfortunately, we lose we lose someone more often than we'd like, and really looking forward to your success. I'm interested from a question, what do you see as possibly the feedback loop that you have? So as you get successes, or as you are looking for deployment, what would be your interest in that future plan?
Yeah, so I can answer that. And I hope I'm addressing your question. If not, feel free to ask a follow-up. So right now what we're doing is we're trying to create a lot of community consultations. So we are working with the Boyle Macaulay Center, as well as like the Mustard Seed, to set up initial focus groups to understand, engage kind of the problems that are on the street level that we potentially haven't considered. So we are garnering more so those partnerships, as well as organizations such as your own. So what we're hoping to do with the feedback that we receive in those conversations is optimize how our syringe works and how our product works, and then take that back onto field and ensure that it's meeting the needs of people that do suffer from substance abuse. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that works. As per the previous question, often when there is already an established addiction, sometimes it's hard to change that path. So I'm just kind of curious. I appreciate that that input. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, I think a few people have kind of touched on this, so I'll kind of just nail it home. I think we all know that addiction and substance use is a very complicated issue, and so FentaGone, you know, we'll be the first ones to say it. We're not going to cure addiction. We're not going to be curing the opioid epidemic. I think we're just a necessary tool in the holistic solution. So, you know, if anyone has perspectives or connections that are already working in this space, we'd love to connect with them, because we don't want to, you know, take away from work people are doing. We'd love to add to the work that organizations such like yours is already doing, Brett. So we just want to be a part of the space here. Yeah.
Awesome. So I want to say a big thank you to Annika and Simran and Adarsh and Kevin and Shay. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and your journeys. It has been such a great time getting to know all of you and hearing all of your stories. And I can't wait to continue more of the conversation in the breakout rooms and get to know each one of you more. And so we'll head into the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back here around 12:55 for some community announcements. And yeah, let's go into the breakout rooms. Enjoy, everyone.
Talking about the Clean Resource Innovation Network, CRIN, which is adopting the rainforest analogy, which is fantastic. you know of any other networks or organizations that would like to adopt the rainforest analogy, we're having fun sharing what we do with others. So let us know. And on that note, are there any other announcements from the community?
Yes, hi, it's Erin Moffat from Cost. Big fan of Rainforest, and I absolutely was inspired today. I love to see all of these great innovations and ideas being brought to life, which is why I want to capitalize on this incredible group of brilliant minds. So I work at a water and sanitation charity called Cost that helps give access to water and sanitation around the globe. But many people don't know about us. Calgary doesn't know about us, and it's actually a Calgary-based innovation. So I want to get a think tank together of all of you beautiful people and beyond to help, for one, to learn about Cost and this amazing innovation, but then two, to pick your brains on how can we bring more awareness? How can we get this out there? And I put the link in the chat. So I'd love for people to join. There's not a lot of information right now, but it's more of a placeholder for save the date for June 20. Yeah.
Okay, Erin's breaking up there, but
Cost
that's awesome.
better.
What is the date, Erin?
June 29th.
And that's a session in the afternoon where we're just going to put out an invitation, right?
Yeah, the invitation is in the chat right now, so please register.
Yeah, it's a think tank, and it's Mother Nature and science at its best. So if you want to mix those two together.
Awesome. It is the top of the hour, so if you have to go, thank you for joining us, and thank you to the amazing entrepreneurs who shared their stories, and League of Innovators for doing what you do with youth entrepreneurs. Bring on more of them, Annika. We'd love to hear from more of them at Rainforest. So if you'd like to stay on, we usually hang around and keep networking if you'd like. And if you have any other announcements, you can throw them in the chat or unmute now. And for whoever sticks around, they'll hear you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure why the poll
Thanks so
is
much
not
for having us, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. There's always more founders, so if you're open to it, we can talk about it offline.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
I had asked a question about where the funding is. So the cohorts don't pay, I think is what you said. And then the funding is supported maybe by the province or the federal government. Is that what it is?
Yeah, you're correct. So all the young entrepreneurs don't pay anything. It's free. It's no equity. There's no like hidden fees behind closed doors. And then the League of Innovators, we're a Canadian charity. So we're federally funded. We're also funded by like individual philanthropists and corporately funded. Yeah.
So I assume you need mentors and advisors and stuff like that?
Yes, we are always looking out for more like partners, mentors, advisors.
So how can we participate and give back?
The whole
Those
gamut.
of us that are over 30.
Super. Yeah. I mean, it looks differently for everyone depending on what you're interested in. But if you'd like to connect, we can totally do that for anyone who's interested and figure out what works for you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Christina.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.